Yeah, like sun in the hizzle, all for shizzle dizzle. Got an excellent show here today. Y'all see the title. Russia is advancing towards Sumy. Um, I like to introduce a channel that I like to keep updates with because you guys probably, where's he getting this? History. I'll have to post a video. I have a Russian buddy, a couple of Russian channels that I watch that shows the advancement of Russia and how they're um, making a quick advance on Sumy. Sumy being one of the major oblasts in Ukraine. Um, Several things I want to talk about today, but besides Russia and Ukraine, I also want to talk about Israel and Iran. I want to mention a little something there, and I also want to mention um, Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders. I definitely want to mention that too. So, um, and then what else? There's something else that I came across this weekend that I found very interesting. Um, Shout out to Kelly Ray. She did a video on Milwaukee, and there was a slain police officer, and I was just like, I guess I jumped out the window and blamed it on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's open border policy, but apparently, I guess they didn't catch the person, the killer, or whatever. So, anywho, shout out to Kelly Ray for that one. But let's get back to the topics. Where do I start? Where do I start? Do I start with the climate change with Bernie Sanders crashing and burning on Joe Rogan's channel? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. He crashed and burned. Bernie said, "Oh, you'll see." Next topic, the billionaires and trillionaires. It's like Bernie, man. Turns out that the Democrats they're claiming that they're broke because I guess they have no more U.S. aid, U.S. ID, U.S. AD, U.S. aid to flow to skim off the top anymore. So yeah, the Democrats are claiming they are broke. Okay. Um, you're not only broke in resources, but you're people, money resources, but you're broke in people resources too. But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. That deserves a whole nother video. Just like John McCain's ghost just deserves a whole nother video. So, in talking about Iran, Israel, Ukraine, and Russia, you can't help but bring up John McCain. John McCain, John McCain, John McCain. I call it John McCain's ghost. I don't want to disrespect the dead. Usually when people rest, they rest in peace. But John McCain's ghost is still here. John McCain's ghost uh, was beating the war drum to go to war with Iran and beating the war drum to go with try to surround Russia. Um, and it seems that John McCain's ghost is possessing Mr. Lindsey Graham there. So seemed like Trump is avoiding Zelensky, like I said in another past video, avoiding Zelensky because Zelensky wants boots on the ground. This is what he's been longing for a long time. He not only wants boots on the ground, he wants American boots on the ground. It's one thing to have uh, it's one thing to have European boots on the ground, and it's another thing having American boots on the ground. Europe um, combined with England, Belgium, France, Germany combined would not have enough forces to sustain a war with Russia. And people might say, "Oh," and shout out to Vincent. People might say, "Oh, well, that's propaganda. I can debate that. I can debunk that." That's nothing to debate or debunk. Russia's winning the war. That's nothing to debate or debunk. And we send boots on the ground. We will take a heavy, heavy, heavy loss. Europe will take a heavy, heavy loss. Ukraine has already taken a heavy, heavy loss. Now, people might argue and say, well, Russia's taken a very, very heavy, heavy loss, but Russia has gained ground. They have gained territory. So there is no, there is no, and then people they don't never bring up the fact that if Russia has lost so many people, what do you think Ukraine has lost? Ukraine is taking conscripts off of the dang streets, meaning they're taking kidnapping people in order to send people to the front lines, where Russia's not doing that. Russia has plenty, plenty, plenty of people resource, of man resource, whereas Russia does. I mean, Ukraine does not. Russia does, and Ukraine does not. Nothing to debate. There's nothing to dispute there. You know, sometimes you got haters. They want to damn dispute and I want to debunk this and they want to. It's just like nothing. You do you. Don't come to my channel with that nonsense. And I'm not going to come to your channel with nonsense. No, you do you. I'm gonna do me. And this is what it is. This is what I see. I analyze and I comment on it and I keep it moving. And in this 4 years of Trump, I'm just wondering, when is Zelensky, who is not fighting, who is not in the war, going to throw up the white flag? Hi, brother. What's going on, Tim, man? Hey, be safe at work, Tim. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, man. I'm just analyzing things for the weekend, uh, the news, and trying to foresee the coming news because I know, like I said, each week it seems like it's almost like a yo-yo, back and forth with the whole situation with Ukraine, of course, Iran. Iran, um, Trump does not want boots on the ground with Iran, which is understandable. Um, and I'm not saying, what am I saying? What I'm saying is Trump don't want boots on the ground with Iran, and I think that's a good idea. Don't want no boots on the ground. I don't want boots on the ground nowhere outside of the U.S. If it comes to it, I'm all 100% for boots on the ground defending United States of America. But when it comes to like other countries, I am not. You know, people, oh, well, let's spread democracy. As long as we got democracy here, I'm good because what people don't understand going to work. Okay, cool, man. I'll see you later, Tim. Um, what people don't understand is that just because people want democracy here, they may not want it in other countries or American democracy. Let me just say that people may not want American democracy in their country. That being Iran, that being Russia, that being Ukraine. You know, people just assume that they want American democracy in these other countries, and people who would debate that and try to would have like visors on, like these American visors on, and it's like that applies here. We're born here, so let's, like I said, if boots on the ground are necessary, it be necessary here. Help defend whatever uh, method you want to use. Boots on the ground, Golden Dome, tanks, whatever, napalm, shoot them up, parachuters up out of the sky, whatever necessary things we need to defend ourselves here, I'm 100% for. Not for people going overseas, past the Atlantic, past the Pacific, to go spreading American democracy on these other countries. I'm not with that. Mm-mm. We have an Atlantic and we have a Pacific Ocean for a reason. That's to protect us. And so not only do these countries not want to cross it to come here, we shouldn't want to cross it to go there. Why would you send boots into Iran when we can just gain total area superiority? That's a good point, Fox. Um, air superior, yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna argue with that. You know, as long as it ain't boots on the ground, if you want to send missiles and send jets and all that, yeah, I don't object to that. But in order to do regime change in any country, you got to send boots on the ground. You cannot do. This has just been my experience and study in warfare. Just like I remember in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, we had to send boots on the ground, and in all Libya there were boots on the ground in order to do regime change. I don't think you're going to do a regime change hypothetically. I'm just saying. I'm not saying Trump wants to do this, Fox. I'm just saying hypothetically, um, which Trump doesn't want regime change, but if let's just say Congress and the Senate wanted regime change, they would have to send boots on the ground. There's no way to do regime change without boots on the ground. So, um, a country like Iran, you're not going to do like Libya. A country like Iran, you're not going to do like you're not going to do like Iraq. People. I don't know if they know the difference between Iran and Iraq, but yeah, two different countries. Now during the Bush era, we sent people boots on the ground to do regime change in Iraq with Saddam Hussein and Uday and Usay, his sons. But Iran is a whole different. You got the population there is boots on the ground with Iran would be a long war. It would be a very, very, very long war, and it would drain up all of our man. It would drain up most of our manpower going overseas and battling all them people on their land, all them people in Iraq on their land. That would take a lot of boots on the ground. So, not arguing air superiority. Hey, I'm not. That's not even Fox. I wouldn't even argue that. That's a whole nother. That's a tactic that as long as it doesn't require boots on the ground, hey, have at it. Have at it. If you want to send jets over there and bombers over there, hey, do your thing. I mean, well, Trump already did his thing. He bombed that facility, and again, Trump has stated that. Here's what he stated. He said that he doesn't want Iran to have no nuclear facility. Now you got other people saying other things about regime change and all that. I think Trump made his point about the nuclear facility. Like, this is where your nuclear facility is. This is where you don't get any ideas, bomb they shit. That's it. Um, this joking about regime change, I think Trump was trolling, but hey, uh, at the end of the day, he's not sending boots on the ground, and that's what I'm happy about. So I can choke it up. We can all choke it up to Trump just trolling, being a troll when he was talking about regime change. Because in order to do regime change, Trump would have to send boots on the ground, and Trump's not going to do that because Trump don't even want to send boots on the ground to Ukraine, which um, which is a very interesting paradigm because you got Trump, you got Iran, and then you got Putin. Trump had asked Putin if he can kind of help him with the situation with Iran. And it's funny because Trump was like, well, what about the situation in Ukraine? And, so, I mean, well, Trump, Putin gave his outline, what he wants. He wants, god dang, uh, the territories that they possess. I'm going to just sum it up. Let's see. and also the denazification and demilitarization. He wants a buffer zone. That's it. That's what Putin's wants. So there's no compromising. And I don't know if Trump is getting the right information, but why should the winning team compromise? Let me read Fox's comment here. Okay, so Fox says, I mean, we should have done it before. Remember a little operation called Praying Mantis? They would have to poke around and find out pretty hard to get boots in Iran, like they would have to mess up bad. Well, again, Fox, the whole thing that Trump, and this is why I said, man, when Trump says it, he's saying, look, no nuclear facility, that's it. So I don't know, the press has a tendency of adding stuff to what Trump is saying. He'll say, look, we're going to bomb Iran, don't want them to have a nuclear facility. The media threw in, well, what about regime change? And then they will get that narrative out there until they start normalizing that narrative. Regime change, regime change. When you keep saying it, then that becomes a norm. And now Trump has to say, okay, no, I don't want regime change, but it's not a bad idea. I don't, again, how Trump can take something and troll. But the thing I'm saying is that Trump never mentioned regime change. It was the media throwing that out there. The media has a tendency to throw stuff out there, and then once you throw it out there, then you make it, you put it back as a narrative. You bring it as a narrative because this is what the media wants. The media wants to push a certain narrative. Regime change, regime change, regime change. So when you keep saying it, then it dominates. Like, okay, we got this right here. Trump saying we want to deter nuclear facility. But they keep saying regime change, 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 regime change. This becomes a narrative as opposed to we want to dismantle the nuclear program. Now regime change is out there. They mention it more. This is their tactic. This is what and then so now the media tries to make this the major narrative. Regime change, regime change. And this is how they do the bait and switch with people's minds. Yeah, the media is stupid. Yeah, the media, Fox will start by throwing something out there. They'll throw a line, and then once they reel it in, this is this has now surpassed the original narrative. The original narrative was Trump saying dismantle your nuclear facility, and now they're saying regime change, and now people are now distracted by the regime change, which Trump is still right here saying we don't want your damn new facility. Uh, you don't want you enriching uranium past 60%, whatever it is. And so once they bomb the facility, message sent, Trump is saying mission accomplished. We sent a message saying we know where your nuclear facility is. Don't do it. Never said regime change. The media said regime change. Trump being who Trump is, like, oh, not a bad idea doing the troll because Trump is going to do the troll. Every time the media tries to get a major narrative out there, Trump is going to throw in the troll. He's going to throw in the trolling. He's going to troll. So let me see. Uh, Stop the nukes so we don't end up in a fallout scenario. That is true. That is so true, Fox. And that's what I be trying to tell these people. Oh, I want to debate. I want to debunk. I try to tell these idiots we're in no position. This idiot that we're in no position for nukes to be flying back and forth, to be flying in Europe, to be flying in Russia, to be flying in the U.S., to be flying in China. Hell, because goddamn China is going to jump in and bomb the targets they want to bomb. Damn, who else is going to jump in? Who has nukes? Goddamn, India's going to jump in. Pakistan. Does Pakistan have nukes? You're going to have countries that jump in if the U.S. and Russia, even if Russia sends nukes to Europe, somebody else non-related is going to send the nuke where they want to send the nuke. That's why it's going to be a chain reaction because Once you send a nuke, a major country send a nuke, that gives another major country an excuse to send a nuke where they want to send a nuke. And it may not even, and it would, you know what's so crazy about it? Fox, Tim, is that let's just say India has a nuke, right? Russia sends nukes to them all over NATO. That's going to give India an excuse to send a nuke to Pakistan. That's how that works. Oh, the major power, they have a nuclear war? Well, we're going to have a nuclear war. That sets off a chain reaction. And India and Pakistan has nothing to do with Russia and NATO. Y'all see how that works? It just gives them an excuse. So even if, yeah, a major power like Russia sends a nuke to NATO, that gives India an excuse to send a nuke to Pakistan. Even though there's peace between Pakistan and India for now, that will give an excuse to send a goddamn nuclear, and that will give Israel an excuse to send a nuke to Iran, and vice versa. Just because Russia would attack NATO or NATO attack Russia, vice versa, that gives other countries excuses to send nukes to their enemies. Because you're leading by example. And so now you got nukes flying everywhere. Every nation that has a nuke has an enemy. And a lot of these nations, all they need is an excuse. And a major country send another nuke to another major country that has nothing to do with them, gives an excuse to, let me send a nuke to my damn enemy. Leading by example, and this is why everybody's watching NATO and everybody's watching Russia. And President Trump understands this. Putin understands this. NATO, not so much. NATO, they're kind of silly. They're kind of silly in the brain. But again, um, everybody's watching for nukes because I think NATO now understands that President Trump is not sending boots on the ground. And not only is President Trump not sending boots on the ground, he is laying the foundation for no other president to send boots on the ground to NATO. The NATO battle will be over with. It will be over. The NATO battle will be over by the time, I want to say, before Trump leaves office. Before Trump leaves office, that Ukraine situation will be resolved. And so, yeah, this is where we're at. Um, I want to give a shout out to Fox in the chat. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to you guys. Um, Today's Monday, beginning of the news cycle. And in my closing words, let me say this. Again, people are led by example. One nuclear nation attacks another nuclear nation. Pakistan and goddamn India will start sending nukes towards each other. Think about that. What other nuclear nations are there? Iran, Israel, which Iran and Israel has bubbled up because of the whole Russian and Ukraine situation. I think the October 17th situation happened because of the Ukraine situation. It gives an excuse. The Russia Ukraine gives an excuse. It gives an excuse for other countries to go ahead and start attacking other countries, and this is why it's an opportunity. Everybody's focused on first Ukraine. It gives other countries in the top, like October 17th, and now you got Israel. So now you got Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Iran, and then what else jumped off? India, Pakistan. So it gives other countries a reason to jump off because it's almost like lead by example, distraction, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's a domino effect. So with that being said, y'all, let me read this last comment. Let me read this last comment. If one shoots the gun, everyone shoots the gun. Right, like that. Right. Exactly, Fox. On the side note, I had a sinus infection for the past 24 hours, so I'm about to try to get some rest. Okay, man. I Fox. I'll see you later. Yeah, I'm about to. It's called mutual assured destruction. That's right. That's right. Yes, right. Yep. Mutual shared destruction. All right. Well, shout out to you, Fox, man. Thanks for the like. Shout out to you, Tim, man. Be safe at work. I'm going to, like I said, look at the news. I'm gonna look at some news, man, and I'm gonna go through it, analyze, do some more analyzing and commentary. I'll probably do another video later on in the day when I'm heading home. So, with that being said, we out, y'all. Peace. I'm out.